All right. Andrew McDonald, the Australian cricket coach, is here in the studio. Andrew, it's great to see you.
Good to be here, Gerard.
And you've brought the crystal urn to really focus our mind on the Ashes as well.
No, I didn't bring it. CA staff have brought that along, so it's great to see it. It's getting real, isn't it?
It's getting very real. What's your sense of it?
Well, my sense of it is that we've got New Zealand and India to come, and then obviously the show begins after that. So to see the Australia A team in India yesterday was great to see some winter reward for some work there for Konstas. Young Callaway got some runs as well, and just looking at that top six, there's some really good young talent in that. So exciting to see that, and we'll get our chance with the ball today. So that sort of makes it real. And then we've got domestic cricket, which kicked off yesterday with the Dean Jones Cup, and then into some Shield, which I'm sure that you'll have some language to use around that.
Oh, I can't wait for it. It's such an exciting time. So Brendan McCullum described this looming series as the series of our lives. So there's no underplaying it. Do you have an affinity with that?
Oh, it's big. Last summer also was big. I think every summer, Pat Cummins has been on the record around every summer's big, and what's at stake for us as an Australian cricket team on our home shores is always something that we want to protect and really defend. And it's big. There's a lot of noise around it. I think what we saw with India and England as well is some really attractive cricket, and the skills are on show from both teams will be immense. And I'm really intrigued to see what teams are compiled come that first Test match. There's some talk in our camp. We've got a few moving parts which have been well documented, and also of England with Wood and Archer. So it would be great intrigue to see what happens in Perth.
How much have you been studying the opposition?
A little bit. We had Dan Vittori back home for a period of time, and he was able to drill real heavily into that India and England series. So we've had a little look at it. I think, like most summers, and I've been here before on the eve of summers, that it's more about what we're getting into order and the questions that we've got to ask ourselves in the short term. And the big question is always been the batting order, and to see Sammy Konstas and young Callaway sort of put a few pieces in and around that, and Shield cricket will kick off as well. So it's really asking us what we need to focus on, what the tactics we want to implement. And I suppose the big question will also be the surfaces that we play on, and that sort of dictated a little bit of the style of cricket last year and has over a certain period of time in Australia. So, we're intrigued to see that. And then we'll get heavily into the opponent once they land here. They'll have a couple of practice games. We'll have some scouts in and around, and I'm sure there'll be some shenanigans as to who's going to do what and who's going to play where and what batting orders will be. So there'll be, it's a sense of excitement. And as I said, because we've got New Zealand and we've got India to go in the white ball, and let's not sort of disrespect what that white ball build looks like for us, because there's a World Cup at the back end of the Ashes. So we're sort of mixing that in, and we've had some really good results in the T20. And I just want to make a quick comment before we drill into the Ashes, which I know you want to do, but just Mitchell Starc and his T20 career. I haven't had the chance to sort of publicly acknowledge that as a head coach. I know that he won't like me acknowledging it because he's still playing for Australia, but one of the formats now closes down, and what an incredible T20 bowler he was for us.
He was just a locked piece. So for the most part, when we got to a World Cup, you'd know that you've got the left arm swing at the top, which would have been comforting, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the ability, how many times has he taken a wicket in the first over, and to put the best batters on the defence from the get-go with swing and pace, and we'll still have it in a couple of other formats, which I'm very happy for.
Do you think, is it a good decision? Is it a good modern decision where you almost have to just shelve one progressively as you become a veteran?
Yeah, it's probably not a shock to anyone or surprise to anyone that we've been discussing this for a period of time, myself and Mitch, and along with George Bailey and Tony Doddermaid, and to be everything to everyone across three formats in amongst the schedule is very difficult. So you probably at some point in time got to make way with one of them to allow the others. And I said this to Starkey, so I hope he doesn't mind me saying this publicly, but I was surprised that it was T20. But then as he talked me through it, it made a lot of sense with the Ashes, the amount of T20 cricket this year, and his prioritisation of Test cricket didn't lend itself to sort of balancing out a T20 World Cup build with the Ashes. So, and he's been on the record numerous times saying Test cricket is his priority. So I tip my hat to him in that sense, that he wants to protect Test cricket. He loves it. That's his preferred format. And with the amount of T20 games into a World Cup, he just didn't think he could give energies to both, and it gives us a really good look at a one-day international World Cup should he make it by 2027, and his one-day international record's probably second to none. So, yeah, well done to Starkey.
Okay, luck now. Did you find a pirated feed anywhere? I
No,
searched
no.
everywhere and couldn't find anything.
No, I wish we did. No, we couldn't get any vision on it. So apparently, Tony Doddermate has mentioned that it may come through our internal services, which is called an athlete management system today. So I'm looking forward to getting eyes on it. But the reports were that both those young openers played extremely well. India have got a solid attack as well. Maybe we got the best of the conditions in terms of obviously batting first on that surface. Only time will tell that. But as I said, to see Konstas, Callaway, and even Connolly at number 5, that young sort of dynamic sort of top 6 that, George is always trying to find the balance of the future versus the now, and that's really looks like a future guide as to what India potentially looks like in 2027. And you're going to ask me the question, how much relevance does that have to the Ashes selection? We've always sort of said that coming back home in our own conditions, those Shield games will give us the greatest connection, we believe, as a selection panel. So we look forward to the debate and discussions arriving come Shield 1.
So for Sam Konstas, I imagine it was an unsettling time, understanding what the pitches were like in the West Indies. But by the end of it, he just looked like he was a bit scrambled. So he goes away and does the work, makes a century in a New South Wales City Country match, makes a century for Australia A. How significant are these in terms of getting to work and obviously just rediscovering what works for him?
It's really important. I think any time that you get space and time to work on your game, and then to be able to execute that straight away with century in an intra-squad, albeit an intra-squad city versus country, and then an Australia A contest in foreign conditions, to get that immediate feedback that what you've been working on can work. And it's a connection piece to international level. Clearly that the level will always rise, intra-squad, into Australia A, into Test cricket, and there's always going to be different pressures that come around that. But to come from the West Indies, to go away, work on your game, that winter investment, to get immediate return, I think gives a lot of confidence. And a lot of our game is about confidence and believing in what you're doing. And as I said, to get that feedback in that short space of time, it's incredibly rewarding for the players and the coaches that have worked on that. And now it's the ability to sustain that. Opposition will look at it, they'll critique it, they'll work out ways to potentially pick holes in some potential new movement patterns that are there. So, and he did have a difficult time in the West Indies, and I think Usman Khawaja and fellow top order players have mentioned that it was tough, and that's the reality. And you've got to always have context around it. People just look at the numbers. There's a lot more to tell just than the numbers.
How steep is his learning curve?
We hope that it's happening quickly.
Yeah.
No, it is. I think there's debate around whether exposing young batters too early potentially can damage across a journey. I think match opportunities gives you great learning space and the ability to go from game to game against quality opponents. I think that is a steep learning curve. And if you can, in some ways, conquer it's not the right word, but if you can take that information and carry it on to the next game, that's what experience is, isn't it? So at the end of 10 test matches, you're more experienced. At the end of 20, what have you learnt from the 20 previous? So we're hoping that the investment in games, albeit they might not necessarily be in a run either. You might not have them all back to back. And we've had that discussion with Marnus. Was it the right time to chop Marn out, let him go away and work on his game and come back? So I think whatever stage of your career you're at, the ability to learn from previous events is always helpful.
Does incumbency count for anything for Sam, do you think?
I think the contracting system reflects where we think Sam's at. So he's a contracted player. It will be debated whether incumbency gives you the leg up. I think performance in those Shield rounds is going to be the real connection piece to selection.
Yep. So I've heard you talk about this, and it feels like the messaging is clear. This is the great Australian bat-off, isn't it? Just make runs.
Geez, I hope George Bailey's listening in. No, it is about runs, and that's your currency. It's how you get them as well. And we've got a decision to make around how that top order and the combinations work, whether we want someone that's aggressive to partner with Usman. What does the number 3 position look like? Cameron Green did an incredible job in the West Indies in difficult conditions, and we felt like across those 3 test matches that he grew. Is he best placed to bat 3 when he comes back with the ball? So there's another question to throw into the mix. So we're going to gather the information, and we've always said that we'll make the decision when we need to make the decision, and we've got a lot more information to come. We've got a lot more information to come in the bowling space as well before we start to package out what that sort of first quarter, 13 or 14 looks like. And if you look at it in real terms, I mean, it's really the first 3 Shield rounds, isn't it? So we want to be bedded down by the end of round 3 to have an announcement to get ready for Perth, and then there'll be another Shield game on the back of that, which will be round 4. So I'm sure that we'll have everything lined up by the end of round 3.
On the whiteboard 11, so are we pinning Smith to 4 and Head to 5?
I'd like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like that. I like Smith at 4 and I like Head at 5. I think that's worked, and I think sometimes you don't want to get caught out in trying to cover something else and remove a strength, and I think that 4 and 5 have been really 2 key pillars for us in Steve Smith since he's gone back to 4. We had the debate around him opening and where he best should sit, and then Travis, I've been really clear on in other conditions overseas. We can debate where he bats. In Australia, I like him at 5. I like the ability to turn a game there. Depending on other moving parts, so we may be forced into a situation where we have to be flexible with that, and we're open to that. But if you ask me what preferred would be, those 2 at 4 and 5. And
when will you know whether Cam Green is an all-rounder or a specialist batter? What's his timeline?
He will be in an all-round capacity for the Ashes, and we've given up on these T20 games in New Zealand to make that available in terms of Shield round 1 to prepare him with the ball to get ready. He will play some games in the Indian white ball series, but we have taken him through Shield to prepare for the Ashes, and that the big piece of that will be his bowling and making sure that we've got the loads to be able to navigate through the 5 test matches. We've seen in the last couple of seasons that, home summers, that the all-rounder hasn't been used early in the summer, and we've got some longish gaps between Test 1, 2 and 3. So I think the real stress point in the volume for Cameron will come in the short turnarounds between Melbourne and Sydney, and you saw that even with Bo Webster last year and the shift from Marsh to Webster. So I think that's where the all-rounder will get stressed the most, but that's not to say he won't bowl early in the series either. I think Cameron Green with the ball in hand is an exciting prospect with bounce and pace. Which we saw in the previous Ashes series where he kept taking the big wicket. Yeah, Joe Root in particular, I think a couple of times. So, and the other thing too, that he will help us manage the other 3 quicks, whoever they may be across the journey of the summer as well, and a solid amount of overs from an all-rounder gives you management options for your frontline quicks. And it's no different to Ben Stokes and the way that he was used and didn't quite get through 5 test matches, which is always a question mark how much you use your all-rounders, but they definitely allow you to manage your fast bowlers. So if Green is bowling and is a key part of that, does that affect where he sits in the batting order in your mind? I think it's a discussion. Yeah, I think if you look historically, and this is, I mean, our team's different to teams previously, but using Shane Watson as an example, when he went from 6 to 3, I think in the short, and then he went to open, the amount of balls did drop off. So you've got to take that into account. But there's nothing wrong with front-ending your overs and innings as well as an all-rounder. And if he was to bat higher, then potentially from 50 overs onwards, or depending on where the opponent's at, you might drop off the load there, so then he's fresher to bat. So you can still do a little bit of in-game management and be creative around that. So we're not fixed on it, but it's definitely a conversation. And what does Marnus Labuschagne need to do to regain a place in the Test side? Short of saying he needs to make a few runs. He's a little bit like Sam. He's gone away, worked on his game. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't picked in that West Indies series, so that gave him a little bit more space and time to be able to go away and work on his game. And I think he's made some key adjustments, and he's been on the record around what they are and what they look like. The proof's really in the pudding once you get back out into Shield cricket. Is that going to hold up at Shield level? What does the output of runs look like? And then we've also got to work out how we're getting prepared for the Ashes as well. So he's very much on the whiteboard. Where he fits is up for debate, but he's got those 3 Shield games, and then there's some Indian white ball cricket there. So we've got to balance out what is the best preparation for him in the matches that we target, and that's sort of semi being communicated in the background. There may be some moving parts, but we're not going to declare what those games are. That'll unfold to the public, but we're really conscious of making sure that our Ashes players are best prepared come that first Test match. We did cop a little bit of criticism last year for our performances in Perth, and people may have mentioned that we're underprepared. We felt like we were prepared, but every year we go through the same process. We ask ourselves the right questions to make sure that they are prepared for the first Test match, and we'll be doing the same in amongst the complexity of that schedule.
All right. I'm running a policy. Only centuries need apply. Just don't knock on my door without centuries. What's your message to the batters of Australia?
I'd love to say that. Batting has been tricky, and it's all about context. If the wickets and surfaces in Shield cricket are difficult, which they have been in previous years, then you just got to have that context around it. And I think with the eye of the coaches, the way the players moving, the method that they're applying, we'll look a little bit more into that detail rather than just the pure output of runs.
The worry is that the captain, Pat Cummins, and his physical state. How fretful should we be, Andrew?
I mean, we're confident that he's going to partake in the Ashes. So I think to sensationalise that he's not would be an overreaction, to use your words. It's not ideal. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's ideal. He's working through a program. There was a routine scan on the back of the West Indies. He does have a lumbar bone stress issue there. So he'll just work through what his return to play looks like. And we've got time. If it happened any closer, then you'd have to be making sort of key decisions around what it all looks like. But we have got time, a lot more information to come. And as I said, we're really, really hopeful that he will take a key part in the Ashes. And from the get-go, we never really planned for 5 Test matches for most of our fast bowlers. Over the last couple of years, we've been lucky with shortened games early in the summer to be able to deliver 5 Test matches. So, we'll see what that looks like for Pat. But there's a lot more information to come, and I think everyone will probably live through that with the footage of him training and when he re-enters around the group, and we're hopeful that you'll see him around one day teams preparing as well. So you guys will get a good lens on that also, and we look forward to our captain taking a significant part in the Ashes. So
are you braced, and should we brace for the fact that he won't play all 5 tests?
As I said, in our planning, we never really pitched that forward to our players. And then as the season or the summer unfolds, if you get some shortened games and you get some games where the load's organically being managed by how quick the Test match has been, then you can start to flip into this is a possibility. We got some good spaces, as I said earlier on this call, between Test matches 1, 2 and 3. So that feels really manageable for most of our quicks. So let's put them all in the same basket here. For most of our quicks, that feels manageable. Where the real stress point comes is Test match 4 and 5. And that's going to be the real art of management across the summer. How much do you put in early? How much do you hold off for 4 and 5? And the critically important test is Test match 1. And as we saw last year, you don't want to be on the other side of it because that can create some internal and external pressures that can potentially challenge your environment. And I think on the back of last year, that's one of our great strengths is our environment, and we're able to maintain it even on the back of a disappointment early. We would have preferred it to be the other way. So we've just got to make sure that, bang, what's that first test look like? And then we'll go from there.
Is it challenging given it's the captain, or are you now well enough drilled with Steve Smith stepping in various circumstances that it's not the interruption that it might be?
Yeah, we're well enough drilled. Steve Smith's got a lot of captaincy experience. We haven't really got to that conversation yet because there's no finality or timeline on Paddy. But I'm just thinking out loud here that I think Steve's done it 5 or 6 times in the absence of Paddy for COVID and injuries over certain times. So that would be an obvious person to step in, and we'd have great confidence. That's getting ahead of the conversation that hasn't happened yet. So hopefully George and Tony Dottermay don't ring me on the back of this. But it seems an obvious choice. We're well covered. He understands how the team operates, and he's a very good leader in his own right. So
what does it mean for the bowling stocks? There are 4 front lines, and they could all play on any day. It feels like you're going to have to dip a little bit further, and maybe the next option is not quite as automatic.
Yeah, it'll always be a balance of the attack. So depending, if it's Mitchell Starc who was to dip out, if it's Pat, if it's Josh Hazel, if it's Scotty Boland. So those 4 are really the key movers in the conversation. And then I don't want to exclude anyone from this conversation, but if you sort of ran through a list, Doggett and Abbott were in the WTC with us. Doggett unfortunately got injured there. Sean Abbott comes across to the West Indies, so we feel like we've got some mature coverage there. Michael Nisa was also preparing in case something happened in the off season. You got O'Neill, you got McAndrew, and then you start to talk about the younger quicks. So we've got a little bit of a gap between our established fast bowlers in state cricket and international level, and then this young crop that are coming through, which are Vidler, Straker, Anderson, Beardman, Whitney, and then we've got Jai Richardson returning from injury, who should be back somewhere in the middle of that Ashes as well if everything goes well. And at the moment things are going well. So if you look at those names, it feels like we've got really good depth, but it's really then making sure we pick a balanced attack, which has been one of the great strengths of Australian cricket. The Starc, Hazelwood, Cummins with Lyon, they've all complemented each other. So the art in that, if we do lose some frontline quicks, is what does the balance look like to get the performance to potentially replicate what the fast bowling unit's done before.
So the Shield season is as big for young and emerging bowlers as it is for young and emerging batters.
It is. I think if you looked at the age profile of the team, they're not going to be around forever. And performances now, even if it doesn't have a direct connection to the Ashes, performances now leading into potentially transition in the next couple of years, I think will be well recognised in time.
All right, so cricket's front of mind. Footy's a little bit there as well. You've joined the Geelong board?
I have, yes.
How did that come to pass?
Come to pass very quickly. Just a conversation with Grant, the president, and also Steve Hocking, CEO and board member, and just posed the question to me and went away and thought about it for about 30 seconds, and I said yes. And I've had a long connection down at Geelong. I think it's starting back in about 2015 or 2016 when I started my coaching career. I was lucky enough to get access inside the four walls there, and I've learned an incredible amount. So hopefully I can pay back a little bit of that.
What appeals to you about the organisation?
I think it's just a great club it's got a great environment. I've learned a lot from, as I said, being in those four walls, from Chris Scott, Steve Hocking when he was the general manager. I like the relaxed nature of it. It's got a great history, a proud history. It's full of good people. I think the innovations and where they want to head as well struck a chord with me. They've got a global view on things. So, there's a lot to like about it. What does it mean being a board member? I'll let you know that in about 12 months' time. It's new to me.
Will you go Friday night?
I think I'll attend Friday night. I'll have to take young Ollie up there, who's a mad cat supporter. So I'll take him along for the ride.
But if they do make the grand final, you'll be in New Zealand.
You've done your research very well, Gerard. We'll be unavailable for that one. So I'll be watching that from afar. But we've got a lot of Collingwood and Geelong supporters within our group going to New Zealand for the T20s over there. So I think depending on what happens this weekend, there might be some flight options looked at to see whether it actually is possible for certain people. But no, we've got the New Zealand T20s over there, so we'll be fully occupied.
Terrific. Always appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Good luck for the next bit. I'll see you during the Shield season.
See you there, Gerard. Thanks.